So,
If I could just add to Fernhill real quick, and I think Dean's going to come up and talk a little about Regiment Securities. So I always say I'm like Forrest Gump. The words like tokenization, democratization, it just feels like word salad to me, and I don't understand it. So what I do understand is I used to trade on the floor at the Chicago Board of Trade, and I used my hands, and I wrote on cards. And that all went electronic when the exchanges allowed the machines to hook up, and then high frequency and algorithmic trading took over. And then online brokerages like E-Trade, Scottrade, Charles Schwab, Fidelity all came in the 90s. And that was like science fiction, right? We're used to our grandfathers and grandmothers calling their broker at Morgan Stanley and getting charged $300 for a commission, and that went down to $14.95. Now it's zero. Robinhood doesn't charge commissions, right? They make their money in different ways. So when you look at the tailwinds of democratization, tokenization, digitization, all of those buzzwords, really what you see is the tailwinds in private markets in the last 20 years have picked up. There are more LP investors in private funds than ever before, and it continues to grow. And the reason a lot of people don't grasp that is because there's very little liquidity and almost no transparency. So a company like Fernhill, what we really like about it is Chris isn't a 27-year-old going to conferences, like a crypto bro. He's got 35 years of experience in capital markets as an investment banker and all the relationships that come along with that. So he's already got a couple funds, like big name funds, under LOI. Regiment Securities, we've got over 500 GP LP funds as customers that we placed over $1 billion this year in LP investments. And we're just going to push all of those over to Fernhill as this tokenization, like digitization, fractionalization, globalization conversation keeps popping up from the GPs of the funds. We now have an outlet where we can just push the funds over to Fernhill. They put it up in what is more liquid, transparent market, just like we're used to seeing in the 90s with stocks, in the early 2000s with equity options, and now making the private markets less opaque and more liquid. So that's why we're looking at Fernhill. That's why we're investing in Fernhill. That's why we're partnering with Fernhill. Just wanted to throw that in there. And now I think Dean's going to talk a little bit more about Regiment, and then I've got a little phone number I'm going to share with everybody.
all right, so thanks, Dave, again, as always, for having a great conference. My name's, yes. So, my name's Dean Delisle. I know some of you. I met you the last couple conferences. I'm a partner and chief revenue officer. Mike is the founder and CEO of Regiment Securities. So as you hear investment bank and you hear broker-dealer, a lot of things come to mind. And what we're doing differently is typically investment bankers tend to keep things inside the club, if you will, right? So their deals, the first access to their deals, usually that comes to their hedge funds, their billionaires, they're people that are in the club, right? And so this whole democratization thing is pretty special in that we are giving investors, retail investors, access. So access to private off-market deals. And even though Fernhill is publicly traded, for example, if you go on our platform, Regiment Express, which we're going to give all of you access to, you'll get an email, you get unlimited access. What we do is we give you access to Fernhill instead of going and buying it publicly traded. You can buy it through us at a discount. So what we do is we work with our issuers to, and here's another thing too, before I get into that. So I was with one of my family offices at lunch yesterday, and he said, well, why should we place our capital through you? And I said, well, you have options, right? So most families have kept within the family style of business, but now we're seeing them break out of that. And I said, look, Donnie, we literally vet and do background checks and look at deals, and we look at not just where is the deal today, but where is it going to go? We have a whole team of 35 other reps that have M&A background. A lot of us have IPO background, and we can look and see and feel a company and know if it's going to make it or not, at least at a high percentage. Never any guarantees, but we at least can see a pathway. And so what's interesting about that is we take them on, we give that sort of access now to our investors. And somebody said, Chris was talking about partnerships. So with us, what we do is we partner really well. So we don't just give access to our investors that are on our platform, but we partner with other platforms. And you know what's interesting with this democratization is that we're seeing other big players starting to share because they don't have a choice. So in order for folks like you to have access to great Trickle Research and understand the whole background and the foreground on a good micro cap or maybe a company that's soon to be listed is one way. And then I'm sure you have your other trading platforms that gives you other data, but a lot of those have to be listed companies. What we're doing is we're bringing you the world of private alts. And alts are on fire right now. How many people track alts in here? Got to be a few of you. Good. So we give you access through our platform to be able to do your own due diligence, to look at background, to look at reports, to look at financial, and to do background on alts that we've already done background on. And so what's interesting about this, just like Mike said, we're tracking companies that are private today, but then they're headed to the IPO market. Because as we saw in the previous slide, IPOs are on the rise. And now that the government opened up yesterday, is everybody happy about that? A little bit?
I am.
We are. We had a backlog. We were doing an IPO a week, and then we did 2 in 1 week, and then it was starting to pick up, and then they shut down. Well, the SEC is part of that, so that messed us up a little bit.
The SEC sets the effective dates on IPOs on October 1st when the government shut down. The SEC could not set the effective date, so all of I believe there were 175 S1 filings in the Edgar database on October 6th. We had a roadshow set up to go out on the 6th. We had to pause everything. In the last few days, the flurry of people now ready to IPO is the highest I've ever seen, like by far.
Why don't you transition into the piece, because that's important.
And again, I'm like the Forrest Gump. I don't like using big words, word salad. How many people are familiar with like Airbnb and like Uber's business model? They don't own the houses, they don't own the cars, they know who wants it, they know who has it, they're the tech integration between the two. So when I started Regiment Securities, I know how hard it is to raise funds. It's like crazy, right? You're a CEO of a company, you're building your customer base, your revenues, and then you're like, hey, we need growth revenue or growth equity. It's really hard to go out and raise money. So we set up Regiment to solve capital raising for anybody raising capital, whether you're an issuer, like a CEO of a company that's raising startup A, B, C, D, E rounds, IPOs. You're a fund, a VC, a PE, a secondary fund, whatever it is, real estate, direct deals. We wanted to build something that makes it easier to raise money. So the easiest way that we could do that is not try to go out and get everybody to open an account with us. We studied the marketplace and we noticed that traditional online broker-dealers have everything except one thing. They don't have equity capital markets teams. They don't have investment bankers. None of them. Interactive brokers, Charles Schwab, Fidelity. They've all tried it, but they've gone the wrong way about it. We went the other way and said, hey, if we go out and get access to an IPO, like if we get an allocation, would your investors on your platform want access to that? They're like, yeah, absolutely. How are you going to do that? We'll figure it out. Well, somebody earlier mentioned the Circle IPO in June. It's a cryptocurrency blockchain like company. For the last 10 years, all we've been doing is building relationships in industries like similar to Montgomery Securities back in the 80s, where Silicon Valley, Tom Weasel moved out there, made relationships with all the chip makers. We made relationships with everybody in crypto, cannabis, like all these industries that had tailwinds. So now all the CEOs in these industries, Dean and I can call and say, hey, are you IPOing? And they're like, yeah. And we show them what we built. We have access to it'll be 100 million by the end of the year, 100 million retail investors across the globe. So like the Robinhood of Japan is a company called Moomoo. I'm not making any of this up. Moomoo has 42 million accounts. They're headquartered in Tokyo. They have no equity capital markets team. So we partner with them. We get an allocation to an IPO, and we push notification it out to Moomoo, and they send it out to their clients, and then we take indications of interest to generate demand for the IPOs. When we get an order, Dean and I go to a cigar shop down the street and we refresh the demand generator for the IPOs, and it's about $5 million bucks an hour. And then we update the CEOs that were generating this demand, and then they tell their friends, and then we get more IPOs. So with the government shutting down, our business slowed down a little bit, but now it's picked up, and that's how we've done it. So we don't custody any of the accounts. We go to where the accounts are, and we're basically like an Airbnb or a Uber for investors in public and private.
So-
Our public market allocations are a little bit more robust. Yeah.
So, but tell them how you get the allocation, because that's part of the trick, right? How do you get an allocation from the big banks that are that are in the old book?
So we don't from the big banks. The big banks don't like us.
Right.
Goldman does not talk to us. They sneer at us at the conferences because we're eating their lunch. We go directly to the issuers, the CEOs of the companies that have already hired the investment bank, and we say, hey, look at how these retail investors perform post-IPO. In the case of Bullish.com, they were a JP Morgan-led IPO. JP Morgan priced the stock at a range of 27 to 30. That was the original price. We generated over $250 million in demand in one day. And we told Tom Farley, the CEO of Bullish.com, hey, you only gave us the order yesterday. We've already generated $250 million in demand. The largest, the mean ticket size was $1,200. It was over 30,000 investors globally that drove the demand up. And we told Tom to go back to JP Morgan. Your stock price, you could at least IPO at 37 bucks. So he went from a range of 28 to 30 to 37 bucks. So we made him $7 on that, just alone. And they went from raising $660 million to $1.15 billion with the Green Shield. So we doubled the amount of money he raised. We moved the stock price from 28 to 30 to 37. He was very, very happy, and he's telling all of his friends. So we're getting more referrals from the people that we're doing that for. So we get the allocations by going directly to the issuers and just showing them the data. And what we tell the people is, if nothing else, this is free. We only get paid success if we actually get the allocation and earn the commission. So we ask the CEOs, hey, would you want your product, your company, to be in front of 100 million people for free tomorrow? 100 million people that haven't heard about your company get to hear about your company. And then maybe if we generate some demand, you'll fight for us to get an allocation. So the CEOs are going to the closing when they priced the IPO the night before, and they're demanding that we get an allocation to Goldman and JP.
And they're still stingy.
Yeah, we got so I think we should get more. We got a $50 million allocation to figure. The Goldman guy said it's the largest retail allocation they've ever moved off of Goldman's platform.
So who didn't get what you got?
Robinhood got one share. So Robinhood doesn't like us either.
Robinhood got one share.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also, some of this is about the democratization thing. Part of the reason why the CEO should do that is because there's value in having 30% of the allocation go to retail investors
Huge value.
instead of the same institutions.
The
That's
retail,
the point.
we're getting reports back from our broker-dealer partners, retail holds, they add on.
Right.
The post-IPO stock is less volatile, it performs better. So they're just like,
They tell their friends and meme stocks, whatever you want to call it.
oh, they go, I mean, we had one where a guy got off his rickshaw in Thailand, took a picture of his account, he bought 50 shares and he put it on Reddit. He's like, I'm so happy I got an American IPO. And then he got back on his rickshaw, and then the guy called us, the CEO of Moomoo called us, and he's like, we've never seen this much account opening
And
activity.
that gave them market reach. Moomoo, the broker, right?
So when you look back to like 95, the ironic thing, 95, the IPO market that kicked the dot-com boom, does anybody know what happened in 95 after the first, when the IPO market started heating up? There was government shutdown. I thought that was crazy. I didn't know that. I was looking back on it. But then it boomed. And if you look at the dot-com boom, you're talking most of the people that participated in that were the 1% American investors. It wasn't global. It's 8.2 billion people in the world. We're connecting with all the Robin Hoods of Brazil and France and wherever. Like, the wave in this IPO is coming. It's going to make 1995 to 2000 look like a fourth grade science project. Like, it's coming big. Big.
And it doesn't just work with IPOs. IPO's the hot one, but we can do.
Yeah, we can do any public traded vehicle. We can roll it out to
UITs,
millions of investors. UITs, closed-end funds, BDCs, at-the-monies, follow-ons, pipes, SPACs. Yeah.
Do you know your customer, or are you relying on?
Great question. Here's the beauty of it, right? Because we are a registered broker-dealer and we're working with other registered broker-dealers, all the KYC, AML falls on them. So we're partners with Interactive Brokers, TradeStation. They have to do all the KYC. They have to know their customer. We don't custody any of the client assets. So we just send a push notification to Interactive Brokers, and then they send it out to their client base. And then we send them an invoice. We drop all the shares in their clients' accounts and send them an invoice.
I was going to say too, don't get me wrong. We still have all of our institutional clients, our hedge funds, big family offices, multifamily offices, and you mentioned Interactive Brokers.
Yep.
So we are the exclusive cap intro for Interactive Brokers. Does everybody know who they are? So if you think about us, we're a little shop in Chicago, but we're making big moves. But we're not doing it with tens of thousands of people. I used to work at Merrill Lynch. I couldn't even recognize half the people that were on the phone sheet. I couldn't find people in the company, it was so big. We have 35 reps. We have how many at corporate? Maybe
7 full-time employees. Our best employee, other than Dean, is a agentic AI called Mo. So if anybody wants to call Mo, you'll start to see how we're going to be able to scale offerings like Fernhill. If you call the number 447-268-2337, it's a 5-minute call. You'll meet Mo. He's the first digital investment banker, and he'll interview you so you can get access. So if you want access to an IPO, you tell Mo, and then you'll get a push notification on how to get access to the next IPO. Next IPO we're doing is BitGo, the crypto custodian. Then we've got Grayscale, Medline, a whole bunch of them coming out. So if you want access to the IPOs, you call Mo, and then he'll send out the push
that
notification.
number again?
The phone number, 447-268-2337. And there's no call waiting. Mo can handle 1 million phone calls at once.
So there's our 10,000 people in Mo. Mo money for all of us.
Mo money. The phone number? Yep. 447-268-2337. Yep.
Listen, we always appreciate. Yeah, exactly.
All the personal injury attorneys had the good numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we appreciate everybody coming out, and we always appreciate meeting each and every one of you at these, and we appreciate everything.
Yeah, thank you, Dave.
Absolutely.
Big round.
Well, I appreciate you guys being here. I know it's summer, and
I think these guys have figured out a way to put it all together, so, like I said, it's coming.